When former U.S. President Barack Obama sent a private congratulatory message to Burkina Faso's young leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, no one expected what would happen next. The reply sent shockwaves across the globe and exposed the truth about leadership that left millions speechless. Burkina Faso, a landlocked nation in West Africa, rich in gold but shackled by poverty. For decades, its people have endured the suffocating grip of political corruption, foreign exploitation, and the ruthless terror of armed insurgents. Villages are burned, families go hungry, and promises of democracy vanish like a mirage in the Sahel sun. The world watches, but few care. To many, Burkina Faso is just another headline, another forgotten crisis on a continent the West has long dismissed. But in 2022, something changed. A young military officer, just 34 years old, emerged from shadows. His name, Ibrahim Traoré. He didn't arrive in polished shoes or tailored suits. No grand stage, no teleprompter. Instead, clad in worn fatigues, with dust on his boots and fire in his voice, he stood before the people and declared, "Enough. Enough of the lies. Enough of the theft. Enough of watching our country be sold to the highest bidder. If our leaders won't fight for us, then we will fight for ourselves." The crowds roared. The old elite trembled. His rise was fast, a revolution without rivers of blood. He didn't seize power for fame or fortune, but with a promise. This time, Burkina Faso will belong to the people. The world responded with doubt. Another African coup, they sighed. Western media scoffed. He's naive. He won't last. But in the dusty streets of Ouagadougou, hope began to stir. Farmers, miners, widowed mothers, those who had buried sons and daughters lost of war, began to believe again. And in a quiet corner of Washington, D.C., another man watched with quiet interest. Barack Obama, America's first black president, knew what it meant to carry history on your back. He'd face his own skeptics, navigate his own storms. And as he saw Traoré defy the odds, something stirred. Was it admiration? Solidarity? Or was it guilt? Guilt that for all his speeches about freedom and justice, the systems he led still benefited from Africa's pain. Guilt that places like Burkina Faso remained buried under the weight of Western indifference. So he did something rare. Presidents, current or former, rarely send personal messages to unproven leaders. But he picked up his pen and wrote, "Captain Ibrahim Traoré, history is written by those bold enough to challenge the status quo. Your courage in the face of adversity is inspiring. While the path ahead will not be easy, I hope you lead with the same integrity that has moved your people. The world is watching, and some of us are rooting for you." A simple gesture, a note, a symbol. But when it arrived in Ouagadougou, it set off a storm. Traoré's advisors urged caution. This could open doors, they said. It's Obama, leverage this. But Traoré said nothing. He read the letter, once, twice, then slowly folded it. That night, the country was glued to their screens as a national broadcast cut to a live address. Traoré stood alone, the letter in his hand, his face calm, his voice even. He read Obama's message aloud, then paused. The air went still. He looked into the camera and spoke, not to Obama, not to the West, but to the soul of a continent. "Mr. Obama, thank you for your kind words. But Africa does not need congratulations. We need justice." A stunned silence gripped the studio. Then, like a dam finally bursting, he continued, "Our gold builds your skyscrapers while our children starve. Your drones fly over our skies, but still the terrorists kill. You condemn our corruption, but who gave the bribes? Who armed the warlords? Who overthrew Thomas Sankara?" The speech hit like a thunderclap. Within minutes, the clip went viral. Twitter exploded. "Who does he think he is?" Versus. Finally, someone said it. Western pundits scrambled to rewrite their narratives. The world had expected obedience. What it got was a reckoning. Across the continent, from Nairobi to Dakar to Lagos, streets erupted in cheers. Young people reposted Ibrahim Traoré's fiery words with single, blazing hashtag. Hashtag Traoré speaks for us. The message was clear. Traoré hadn't just answered Barack Obama. He had spoken for an entire generation. A generation tired of being patronized, ignored, exploited. In Washington, Obama's team scrambled. A formal response was already being drafted, its language careful, diplomatic. I hear Captain Traoré's concerns. Dialogue, not division, must guide our future. But Traoré wasn't waiting. He had no interest in behind-the-scenes diplomacy. He was just getting started. The next flashpoint came days later. A global leadership summit in Geneva. There, on stage under glittering lights, stood billionaire tech mogul Jeffrey Reynolds. Arms folded, $5,000 suit stretched at the shoulders, his smirk widened as he eyed his target. This was his domain, shaming people on camera. He'd done it to senators, CEOs, even presidents. Why not a young African leader? You call this leadership? Reynolds sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. Your people are starving while you fly around the world giving speeches. Maybe if you spent less time complaining about colonialism and more time building factories. Gasps rippled through the audience. Even his own aides shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't just arrogant. It was venomous. The moderator half rose, unsure whether to step in. But Traoré moved first. Slowly, calmly, he removed his glasses, folded them, placed them on the podium. The entire room went still. Then, in a voice calm enough to pierce steel, he replied, "You're right, Mr. Reynolds. Hard work does matter." He paused, letting the words sink in. Then, with surgical precision, "So tell me, when your company took $2.1 billion worth of gold from Burkina Faso last year, how many hours did you personally spend in those mines?" The room gasped. A ripple of murmurs spread like wildfire. Reynolds blinked. His trademark smirk faltered. Traoré continued, voice steady. "When your subsidiaries paid workers 80 cents a day, was that your idea of a fair wage? When your private security opened fire on protesters in Bissa, did you sign those orders yourself?" A reporter dropped her pen. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Oh, damn," loud enough to be picked up on the microphones. Reynolds shifted uncomfortably, his jaw tightening. "Now, wait he began. But Traoré calmly raised a single finger. Not in anger, not in threat, but with a quiet command of a man who's faced real war and isn't afraid of words. "No, Mr. Reynolds, you wanted this conversation. Let's have it properly." He turned toward the audience. "This man built his fortune by extracting our wealth, while leaving our people in poverty. And now he stands here to lecture us about hard work." The mood in the room shifted. Where once there was tension, now there was clarity. The audience realized they were witnessing history. This wasn't just a comeback. This was a dismantling in real time of centuries of arrogance. Reynolds opened his mouth, but Traoré wasn't finished. With calm precision, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a flash drive. "I came prepared," he said. "Shall we examine how Mr. Reynolds really built his empire?" The moment stretched taut, like a wire about to snap. Reynolds scoffed, trying to regain control. "I built my empire from nothing. Every dollar came from blood, sweat, and American ingenuity." His voice echoed, but the words rang hollow. Traoré didn't flinch. He simply nodded. "Really?" he said softly. "Then you won't mind if we show the world the real story." A staffer stepped forward, placing a remote in Traoré's hand. He clicked. The sound echoed through the hall like a trigger pull. The giant LED screen behind him lit up. The first image appeared. A satellite photo of a Reynolds-owned gold mine in Burkina Faso. Its massive tailings ponds glowed toxic green, visible even from space. The crowd stared, silent, breathless. What followed would shake boardrooms across the globe. And for the first time in a long time, Africa was no longer begging to be heard. It was commanding the room.